She arrived at the base early in the morning, long before the sun had fully risen. The air was crisp and carried the faint scent of salt from the nearby sea. As she walked through the gates, the sound of marching feet and shouted commands echoed all around her. This was a place where only the strongest, the bravest, and the most disciplined could survive. Every corner of the base seemed alive with energy, tension, and the quiet hum of serious work. She felt a mix of nervousness and excitement, knowing that this was where her skills would be tested like never before. From the very first moment, she noticed how different this environment was from anything she had experienced before. The other trainees were already in formation, standing tall and rigid, their eyes forward, their expressions serious. A few glanced at her as she approached, and she could feel their curiosity, some even smirks hinting at doubt. She knew that being new and slightly smaller than many of them would make her an easy target for jokes and underestimation. But she held her head high, letting her posture reflect the quiet confidence she carried inside. Her uniform was crisp, perfectly pressed, and her boots shone as she marched to her designated spot. She could hear the distant bark of orders from the instructors, commanding trainees to move, run, or prepare for drills. Everything about the base demanded respect and attention to detail, and she knew she had to match that level from the very start. This was not a place for hesitation or uncertainty. Any sign of weakness could be noticed immediately and remembered for a long time. As she waited, she took in her surroundings carefully. The training grounds were vast, stretching across acres of open land. Obstacles of all shapes and sizes, walls to climb, ropes to swing on, and water-filled pits to cross, were scattered across the field. She realized that each of these obstacles would soon test not only her physical strength but also her mental toughness. The SEAL program was famous for pushing trainees beyond their limits, and she knew that to succeed, she would have to remain focused, disciplined, and resilient. Around her, the other trainees began small talk, but she noticed that most of the conversations were filled with bravado or teasing remarks aimed at anyone who seemed less experienced. Some looked at her with a raised eyebrow, clearly trying to guess whether she belonged here. She felt a flicker of irritation but quickly pushed it aside. She understood that judgment was part of the game. The moment she reacted emotionally or allowed their doubts to shake her, she would give them power over her. Instead, she decided to let her actions speak for her. Walking through the base, she noticed the instructors watching every movement closely. These were men and women who had been through the same grueling training, and their eyes missed nothing. Every step, every posture, every glance was being evaluated. She felt the weight of that scrutiny but also a strange sense of comfort. It was a challenge, yes, but it was fair. If she gave her best, there would be no surprises, and no one could take credit for her achievements except her. Her first day was filled with small but important tasks. She had to carry her gear, check her weapons, and run through a series of physical assessments. Each task was designed not just to test strength or endurance, but precision, attention to detail, and composure under pressure. She noticed how even minor mistakes drew immediate correction from the instructors. A misstep, a misplaced hand, or even a moment of hesitation was noticed and remembered. She quickly realized that this environment demanded absolute focus, and there was no room for error. Despite the challenges, she found herself quietly observing the rhythms of the base. The coordination between trainees, the way instructors moved, and the sense of discipline in every action fascinated her. She admired how everyone seemed to know their role, yet she also saw the subtle competition beneath the surface. Everyone wanted to prove themselves not just to the instructors but to each other. She understood that fitting in here would require not just skill, but strategy, patience, and determination. By the end of the morning, she had already faced several small trials, from physical tests to handling her gear under time pressure. She was tired, but she felt a deep sense of purpose. This was more than just training. It was a proving ground for her abilities, her willpower, and her courage. She knew that challenges would only grow tougher from here, but she also knew that she had something many others might not: resilience, focus, and a refusal to let initial impressions define her. As she stood with the other trainees, ready for the next set of instructions, she realized something important. This was her chance to make a mark, not with words, but with action. People might doubt her now, but she knew that soon, they would have to recognize her capability. The base, the instructors, even her skeptical peers, all of them would witness what she could do. And she was ready for that moment, no matter how long it took to arrive. The morning sun had fully risen now, casting long shadows across the training grounds. The young trainee had already endured a series of tests that pushed her body and mind. She was catching her breath, adjusting her gear, and quietly observing the other trainees as they moved through their drills. Despite her growing confidence, she could sense that not everyone had accepted her presence yet. Whispers floated around, subtle glances were cast her way, and the occasional smirk made her pause for a moment. She reminded herself that this was normal. In an environment like this, where strength and reputation mattered, every newcomer was a target for teasing and testing. It wasn't long before one of the seasoned SEALs decided to make his move. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a voice that carried easily across the training field. He had been here for years and had built a reputation for being sharp, skilled, and slightly intimidating. When he approached her, there was a glint of mischief in his eyes, the kind of look that said he was about to make a joke at her expense. "So," he said loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear, "what's your rank?" His tone was playful, but there was an unmistakable edge of mockery. Some of the trainees nearby chuckled softly. The atmosphere shifted instantly, the quiet tension replaced by the buzz of laughter and curiosity. She felt the eyes of everyone in the area on her, waiting for her reaction. In that moment, it would have been easy to respond with anger, to snap back, or to try to prove herself through words. But she didn't. Instead, she kept her expression neutral, her posture straight, and her mind calm. She understood that reacting emotionally would give the joke power, and she refused to let that happen. The SEAL leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice so that only she could hear, but with a tone that suggested amusement. "I didn't think someone like you could survive here long enough to earn a rank." His words were meant to provoke, to make her question herself. Yet, rather than feeling belittled, she felt a spark of determination. This was exactly the kind of challenge she was here for, the kind that tested not just physical skill but mental resilience and composure under pressure. She responded only with a calm, measured smile, saying nothing. That silence, rather than showing weakness, projected confidence. It was subtle, but the lack of a reaction caught the SEAL off guard for a brief second. He was used to seeing people flustered or embarrassed in front of others. Most would have tried to laugh it off or explain themselves, but her quiet self-assurance made him pause. The laughter around them softened slightly as well, as a few trainees began to notice that she wasn't the type to be easily intimidated. Despite the joke, she focused on the task at hand. She knew that in this environment, actions spoke louder than words. Every drill, every push-up, every precision exercise was an opportunity to prove herself without needing to explain anything. She channeled any frustration or doubt into energy, performing each task with meticulous care and determination. Her movements were precise, her focus unwavering, and even the instructors started to take notice of the way she handled herself under scrutiny. Throughout the day, the teasing continued in small ways. Some trainees made quiet comments about her size or experience, and the same SEAL would occasionally smirk or make sly remarks. But each time, she ignored the distractions and concentrated on the mission. To do her best and let her abilities speak for her. She realized that being underestimated was actually an advantage. People's doubts would lower their guard, giving her opportunities to exceed expectations without facing immediate opposition. As the drills grew more intense, she noticed a subtle shift in how people observed her. While the SEAL who had joked continued his playful teasing, he also started watching her more closely. Every movement she made, every obstacle she cleared, seemed to register with him. Perhaps he was starting to recognize that she was not just another trainee to mock, but someone with real talent and resilience. It was a small change, almost imperceptible, but it was enough to give her a quiet sense of satisfaction. By mid-afternoon, the physical challenges were behind them, but mental tests were just beginning. The SEAL and the other trainees had to navigate complex scenarios requiring quick thinking, teamwork, and decision-making under pressure. She found that she excelled in these situations as well. Her calm, analytical mind allowed her to make decisions quickly, and she instinctively knew how to balance assertiveness with cooperation. Each small success built her confidence, and even those who had doubted her before began to recognize her skill. As the day ended, she stood quietly in formation, sweat dripping down her face, muscles aching, but a sense of pride swelling inside her. The SEAL who had joked about her rank gave her a nod, small, almost reluctant, but a sign that he was beginning to respect her. She knew that this was only the beginning, that the real tests were yet to come. But she had already proven something important, that her worth could not be measured by a joke or a quick glance, but only by her actions and determination. That evening, as she cleaned her gear and prepared for rest, she reflected on the day. She realized that the mockery she had faced was not a setback, but a challenge that had strengthened her resolve. The SEAL's joke, meant to humiliate her, had instead fueled her determination. She was learning that in this world, respect was earned through consistent effort, courage, and composure, and she was ready to earn it, no matter how long it took. The next morning, she woke up before sunrise. Her body was sore from the previous day's grueling exercises, but she felt a quiet excitement as she prepared for another day of training. The base was alive again, filled with the sounds of boots hitting the ground, instructors shouting commands, and trainees moving in perfect formations. It was a world of discipline and precision, where every second mattered and every action was observed. She had learned quickly that here, strength alone wasn't enough. Mind, focus, and determination were just as important. As she joined the other trainees on the training grounds, she noticed the subtle changes from the day before. Some of the people who had been quick to mock her were now watching more carefully, trying to understand how she moved, how she responded under pressure, and how she handled the drills. The SEAL who had joked about her rank yesterday was also observing her more closely, his smirk tempered by curiosity. She didn't need approval, but the recognition of her growing presence was something she silently welcomed. The first challenge of the day was an obstacle course designed to push trainees to their limits. Thick ropes hung from tall platforms, walls of varying heights blocked the path, and muddy water pits had to be crossed carefully to avoid injury. As she stepped forward, she felt the familiar mix of fear and determination. Each obstacle would test not only her strength but also her balance, coordination, and mental toughness. She reminded herself to focus on one movement at a time, to stay calm, and to trust her training and instincts. The other trainees moved quickly, some with ease, others struggling visibly. She noticed that while many relied on brute strength to overcome obstacles, she relied on strategy and precision. When climbing a wall, she carefully placed her hands and feet, making every movement efficient. When swinging across ropes, she calculated her trajectory and timing, conserving energy while maintaining speed. Her careful approach surprised some of the other trainees, who expected her to be slower or less capable. By the time she finished the course, she had not only completed it but done so with accuracy and grace. After the physical drills, the instructors introduced a series of mental challenges. Trainees had to memorize sequences of commands, plan complex maneuvers, and make split-second decisions in simulated combat scenarios. While others struggled under pressure, she excelled. Her mind was sharp, her focus unwavering, and her ability to stay calm in stressful situations gave her an advantage. It was becoming clear that her strength wasn't just in her body, it was in her mind, her ability to think clearly when everyone else was panicking. The SEAL who had mocked her earlier approached during one of the exercises. "Not bad," he said, his tone carrying a hint of respect he didn't fully admit. "You might survive this after all." His words were simple, almost casual, but to her, they meant something. It was the first acknowledgement that her presence was being taken seriously, even by those who had doubted her. She didn't respond with pride or boastfulness. Instead, she nodded and continued her task, letting her actions continue to prove her worth. By mid-afternoon, the challenges grew even tougher. Trainees were asked to carry heavy loads while navigating difficult terrain, simulating real combat conditions. Every step was exhausting, every breath deliberate. She could feel the strain in her muscles, the ache in her joints, but she refused to slow down. Her body had been pushed to the edge, but her determination was stronger. She encouraged herself silently, thinking of her goals, her dreams, and the reason she had chosen this path. Each step was a testament to her resilience. Even as fatigue set in, she observed those around her. Some of the trainees who had been confident in their strength were now struggling. Their initial bravado had faded, replaced by exhaustion and frustration. She realized that while physical power was important, endurance, strategy, and mental toughness often mattered more. She had already learned to combine these elements, and it was giving her an edge that many others lacked. The instructors noticed her performance as well. While she wasn't trying to stand out, her consistency and precision could not be ignored. She handled every obstacle, every drill, and every challenge with careful thought, resilience, and determination. Her calm confidence under pressure made her a quiet leader, even if the other trainees didn't recognize it yet. The SEAL who had joked about her rank yesterday watched closely, silently reassessing his assumptions. She wasn't just surviving the training. She was excelling in ways that went beyond raw strength. By the end of the day, the trainees were exhausted, but she felt a sense of pride. Every obstacle overcome, every mental challenge completed, and every physical feat performed was proof of her growing capability. She had faced skepticism, mockery, and physical strain, and had emerged stronger, more focused, and more determined than ever. As she cleaned her gear that evening and reflected on the day, she realized an important lesson. Success here wouldn't come from trying to prove herself to others, but from trusting her abilities, staying disciplined, and performing consistently under pressure. The SEAL's joke had been a test in its own way, and she had already shown that she would not be shaken by words or underestimation. Her mind drifted to the challenges ahead. She knew they would become even more intense, more demanding, and more stressful. But she also knew that she was capable. She had discovered a quiet strength within herself, a combination of resilience, focus, and determination that would carry her forward. And as she rested that night, muscles sore but spirit unbroken, she was ready to face whatever the next day would bring. The day began with a crisp, chilly breeze blowing across the base, and the young trainee could feel the energy of the morning in the air. She had already faced several challenging days, and each one had tested her strength, focus, and patience. Today, however, felt different. There was an unspoken sense among the instructors that something important was about to happen, a test that would push trainees to the edge of their abilities. She knew this was her opportunity, not just to survive, but to stand out and show what she was truly capable of. The instructors gathered everyone for a special exercise. It wasn't just a drill in the usual sense, it was a simulation designed to test leadership under stress. The trainees would be divided into squads, and each squad would face a complicated, timed mission that required quick thinking, teamwork, and strategy. The mission was intense, with multiple objectives, obstacles, and sudden surprises meant to challenge not only physical strength but mental sharpness. She listened carefully to the instructions, absorbing every detail, calculating every possible outcome in her mind. Her squad was formed quickly, and she found herself standing with a mix of experienced trainees and a few who were as new as she was. Initially, there was tension in the group. Some members doubted her because she was quiet and unassuming, while others assumed the seasoned members should automatically lead. She noticed the hesitation and realized that someone needed to step forward. Without announcing herself, she took a deep breath and subtly began guiding the squad, giving clear suggestions on how to approach each part of the mission. The simulation began. Alarms blared, signaling the start of a high-pressure operation. Trainees rushed forward, some panicking under the urgency. She remained calm, analyzing the situation as it unfolded. She quickly identified which obstacles posed the greatest threat and directed her teammates to focus their energy efficiently. She didn't raise her voice or command attention aggressively. Instead, she led through precise, confident actions. Her calmness had a subtle effect on her squad, easing their panic and helping them focus on the tasks ahead. One of the first challenges was a complex obstacle course combined with a simulated threat. While others struggled to find the right path, she assessed the obstacles carefully, moving efficiently while keeping an eye on her teammates. She encouraged the ones who were lagging, giving small tips that improved their performance without drawing attention to herself. Her understanding of timing, positioning, and coordination allowed the squad to progress faster than expected, and her presence began to shift the perception of the team. During the mission, a sudden surprise simulated enemy attack forced her squad to adapt instantly. Most of the trainees froze or made mistakes under the pressure, but she reacted without hesitation. She instructed her teammates calmly but firmly, ensuring they took cover, maintained communication, and executed the maneuvers correctly. Her ability to stay composed under such stress amazed not only her squad but also the instructors observing the exercise. They began to take note of her natural leadership, something that had been invisible during the early days of training. As the mission continued, the tasks grew even more difficult. The squad had to navigate treacherous terrain, coordinate multiple objectives, and communicate effectively while under time pressure. She demonstrated incredible awareness, spotting problems before they escalated and suggesting solutions that kept the team moving efficiently. Even trainees who had doubted her before began to follow her lead instinctively. Her quiet confidence had become a guiding force, and her squad was performing better than many others under the same conditions. At one point, the simulation required a critical decision that could determine success or failure. Most trainees hesitated, unsure of which action to take. She assessed the situation quickly, weighing the risks and benefits, and made a decisive call. Her decision worked perfectly, helping the squad complete the objective efficiently and with minimal errors. That moment was pivotal. The SEAL who had joked about her rank the first day watched closely, a hint of surprise on his face. For the first time, he realized that she wasn't just capable. She had exceptional skill, judgment, and composure under pressure. By the end of the simulation, her squad had not only completed the mission, but done so with precision and effectiveness that exceeded expectations. The instructors were visibly impressed, and even the trainees who had doubted her now regarded her with respect. The SEAL who had made the joke yesterday approached her, nodding slightly, an unspoken acknowledgement of her competence. She didn't need verbal praise. The results spoke louder than words. That evening, as she cleaned her gear and reflected on the day, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. This exercise had been more than a test of physical ability. It had been a test of leadership, decision-making, and mental strength. She realized that her approach of staying calm, observant, and precise had made a real difference, not just for herself but for her entire squad. She understood that true leadership wasn't about boasting or demanding attention. It was about helping others perform their best, while maintaining your own focus and integrity. She also recognized that this turning point would change how others saw her. The mocking glances and casual jokes would become less frequent, replaced by curiosity and respect. Her performance had proven that she was not only capable but exceptional, and from this day forward, her presence on the base would be acknowledged differently. The SEAL's joke had lost its power, replaced by admiration for her skill, intelligence, and quiet strength. As night fell, she lay in her bunk exhausted but fulfilled. She knew the road ahead would continue to be challenging, but today had shown her that determination, calm thinking, and steady leadership could overcome even the harshest tests. She was no longer just a trainee trying to survive. She was becoming a leader in her own right, earning the attention and respect of those who mattered. And that realization gave her a quiet, powerful confidence for the days to come. The morning air was still cool as she stepped onto the training grounds. The past few days had tested her body, her mind, and her patience, and she could feel that something was changing. Not just within herself, but in how others saw her. The instructors were beginning to take notice, observing her with a level of attention they hadn't before. Even the trainees who had whispered or laughed at her during her first days were now looking at her differently, some with curiosity, some with a quiet, begrudging respect. She didn't let herself be distracted by it. She knew that true recognition would come through consistent effort and results, not words or glances. The day started with a series of drills designed to test endurance and teamwork. She moved through each exercise with focused determination, her mind fully present, calculating each step and anticipating challenges before they arose. Her squad, which had once been uncertain about following her lead, now relied on her instincts and guidance. She didn't command attention forcefully. She simply continued to demonstrate calm competence, allowing her actions to speak for her. Trainees who had doubted her now began to mimic her techniques, realizing that her methods were efficient and effective. During a particularly challenging exercise involving timed navigation through a simulated hostile environment, she noticed subtle changes in the instructor's behavior. One instructor, known for his strictness and rarely impressed by trainees, lingered near her group, watching her movements closely. He didn't intervene, but his focused attention suggested that he was evaluating her skill, leadership, and composure. She didn't seek his approval consciously, but she knew that every decision, every maneuver, and every precise action contributed to the impression she was leaving. Her squad faced multiple obstacles that required both physical endurance and mental agility. She helped them coordinate their movements, making sure that weaker or less experienced members were guided effectively, all while maintaining her own performance. She moved with precision, climbing walls, crawling through tunnels, and balancing across narrow beams with confidence. Her calm approach allowed others to relax and focus, turning the squad's collective energy into efficiency rather than chaos. The instructors noticed how her presence seemed to elevate the performance of those around her, an intangible quality that was rare and highly valued in training. Even the trainees who had been vocal critics found themselves reconsidering their opinions. Some approached her quietly, asking for advice on techniques or how to handle certain obstacles. She responded patiently, without condescension, explaining small adjustments that could improve their performance. This was another form of leadership, one that didn't rely on authority or rank, but on respect earned through skill, integrity, and consistency. Slowly, word began to spread among the base that she was exceptional, not just because of her physical ability, but because of the way she inspired and improved those around her. During the midday session, a surprise exercise was introduced. The instructors created a scenario in which her squad had to execute a series of rapid objectives under extreme pressure. Most trainees froze or rushed without thinking, but she remained composed, methodically directing her teammates and adjusting the plan as unexpected obstacles arose. Her strategic thinking allowed the squad to complete the objectives efficiently, earning quiet nods from the observing instructors. Even the SEAL who had joked about her rank previously watched from a distance, his earlier amusement replaced with evident recognition of her skill and calm authority. After the exercises, there was a period of reflection and feedback. Instructors called trainees individually to discuss their performance. When her turn came, she listened intently, absorbing constructive criticism while noting small praises for her efficiency and leadership. It wasn't overtly flattering, but it was meaningful. The instructors rarely gave praise lightly, and the fact that they were acknowledging her abilities showed that she was making an impression. She didn't allow herself to feel proud in an arrogant way. Instead, she took it as confirmation that her consistent effort was being noticed, and that she was progressing in the right direction. Later, as she walked back to her quarters with her squad, she noticed subtle signs of respect from her peers. A trainee who had previously mocked her offered a brief nod. Another asked for her guidance during a challenging drill. These small gestures were significant. They indicated that her presence was no longer seen as a novelty or a target for jokes, but as a valuable part of the team. She understood that respect in this environment was earned slowly, day by day, through actions, perseverance, and integrity. That evening, she spent time maintaining her gear and preparing for the next day's challenges. Her muscles were sore, and fatigue lingered, but she felt a quiet sense of accomplishment. The base had begun to acknowledge her consistently, not through loud announcements, but through observation, subtle recognition, and small signs of respect. She realized that this was the real measure of her progress, her ability to influence others positively, to lead without seeking authority, and to maintain focus under pressure. As she lay in her bunk later that night, she reflected on her journey so far. The mockery, the jokes, the doubts, they all had a purpose now. They had tested her patience, her mental resilience, and her commitment. And she had passed each test by staying true to her abilities, remaining calm under scrutiny, and letting her results speak for themselves. She knew that greater challenges were ahead, and that recognition could always be fleeting in such a demanding environment. But she also understood that her foundation was strong, and that her quiet perseverance and consistent performance had already set her apart. She closed her eyes, thinking of the next day, when even greater challenges awaited. But she felt ready. Her skills had been proven, her mind had been tested, and her ability to inspire respect without demanding it had become evident. The subtle recognition she had earned among instructors and peers was a powerful motivator, confirming that she was on the right path. And with that understanding, she drifted into a deep, determined sleep, prepared for whatever trials awaited her tomorrow. The morning air was thick with anticipation, carrying the faint smell of damp earth from an early drizzle. Today's exercise was announced as a surprise test, one of those drills designed to push trainees to their absolute limits. The instructors didn't give any warning, and the trainees had no idea what challenges lay ahead. The young SEAL trainee felt a rush of excitement mixed with tension. This was the kind of test that revealed true skill, resilience, and leadership, the kind that separated those who could survive from those who merely endured. She tightened her gear, adjusted her boots, and reminded herself to stay calm and focused. The instructors quickly explained the scenario. A simulated emergency with multiple threats and obstacles had been set up across the training field. The goal was to navigate the terrain, reach key objectives, and make decisions under extreme pressure, all while ensuring the safety of their teammates. Many of the other trainees looked panicked, whispering nervously to one another, their confidence shaken by the unexpected challenge. But she felt a sense of clarity. Her mind sharpened, her focus intensified, and she knew exactly what she needed to do. Stay composed, lead her squad, and execute each task with precision. As the drill began, chaos erupted. Trainees rushed forward, some tripping over obstacles, others arguing over directions or hesitating under pressure. The SEAL trainee moved with calm efficiency, assessing each part of the field, anticipating dangers, and guiding her teammates without shouting or showing frustration. She noticed a fellow trainee struggling to climb a wall while carrying heavy gear. Instead of ignoring him, she quickly moved to assist, giving him a hand and offering encouragement. Her action was subtle but critical. It prevented injury and ensured the mission continued smoothly. Throughout the exercise, unexpected surprises kept appearing. Simulated enemy threats forced quick reactions, while hidden obstacles required agility and problem-solving. She instinctively prioritized tasks, identifying the most dangerous situations first, and assigning responsibilities to squad members according to their strengths. Her calm demeanor and clear instructions helped her teammates regain confidence and perform better under pressure. Others who had doubted her now followed her guidance instinctively, recognizing that her decisions were both practical and effective. Midway through the drill, a particularly challenging scenario arose. One of her teammates made a mistake that could have jeopardized the entire mission. The trainee froze, unsure of what to do next. Without hesitation, she assessed the situation, devised a quick solution, and directed the team to execute it. Her quick thinking not only corrected the error but also prevented what could have been a major setback. The instructors, observing from a distance, exchanged subtle nods, impressed by her ability to remain composed while solving complex problems under extreme stress. As the mission continued, her physical strength and endurance were tested to the limit. Crawling through mud, climbing steep inclines, and carrying heavy loads while giving instructions required more than just fitness. It required discipline, coordination, and mental resilience. She pushed herself, but also ensured her squad moved safely and efficiently. Her actions demonstrated a rare combination of courage, skill, and leadership. The SEAL who had mocked her rank weeks earlier watched closely, his earlier smirk replaced by visible astonishment. He had underestimated her from the start, but now it was clear that she was not just capable. She was exceptional. By the final stage of the exercise, her squad faced the toughest challenge. Navigating a complex obstacle while under simulated fire, and completing the mission objectives within a strict time limit. Most trainees were exhausted, some struggling to even keep moving. She, too, felt fatigue gnawing at her muscles, but she ignored it, drawing strength from her focus and determination. She encouraged her teammates quietly, pointing out solutions and keeping them moving forward. Her calm leadership inspired confidence in her squad, allowing them to complete the mission faster and more efficiently than anyone had expected. When the exercise ended, the instructors walked over to evaluate the results. Her squad had not only completed all objectives but had done so with minimal mistakes and remarkable coordination. The SEAL who had mocked her initially approached, his expression a mix of respect and surprise. He nodded silently, acknowledging that her abilities had surpassed anyone's expectations, including his own. For her, it wasn't about the acknowledgement. It was about proving to herself and her team that she could remain composed and effective even in extreme pressure situations. That evening, she returned to her quarters, muscles aching, clothes soaked with mud, but her spirit unbroken. She reflected on the day and realized how much she had grown. The surprise test had been more than a physical challenge. It had tested her mental resilience, her leadership skills, and her ability to remain calm under pressure. She had helped her squad succeed, turned mistakes into opportunities, and shown that quiet confidence and skill could achieve far more than loud words or bravado. As she prepared for sleep, she thought about the respect she was gradually earning from instructors and peers alike. The SEAL who had joked about her rank, the other trainees, even the instructors, they had all witnessed her ability to handle extreme situations with courage and intelligence. She understood that recognition in this world came from consistent action, from staying true to one's skills and mindset, and from lifting others while moving forward herself. The day's challenges had confirmed that she was not just surviving. She was excelling, quietly but powerfully, in a way that others could not ignore. Lying in her bunk, exhausted but proud, she realized that the surprise test was more than a lesson in skill. It was a lesson in character. Her composure, leadership, and determination under pressure had proven her worth beyond doubt. She felt ready for whatever challenges awaited her next, confident that she could face even the most intense tests with focus, courage, and quiet strength. The morning sun shone brightly over the base, and the air was filled with the familiar sounds of drills, boots striking the ground, and instructors giving commands. Today was different, though. Word had spread quietly among the trainees that the base commander would be present for the morning inspection, a rare and significant event. The base commander was known for his strict standards, sharp observation, and rare public acknowledgement of excellence. Every trainee knew that any display of skill, leadership, or composure today could be noticed and potentially recognized. She felt a mix of nerves and quiet anticipation. This was an opportunity not just to perform, but to demonstrate the results of everything she had learned and endured. As she stood in formation, her posture straight, eyes forward, she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She remembered the first days when she had been mocked, underestimated, and treated as an outsider. The SEAL who had joked about her rank, the skeptical glances from her peers, the quiet doubts of the instructors. All of these had been obstacles she had faced with patience, focus, and determination. Now she stood confidently, knowing that her consistent effort, skill, and composure had earned her quiet recognition. Today, that recognition might finally become visible in a dramatic way. The inspection began with the usual procedures. The commander walked past the rows of trainees, observing their uniforms, their posture, their focus. His sharp eyes missed nothing. The SEAL who had made the initial joke was also present, standing nearby with a mixture of amusement and lingering doubt. He was about to witness a moment that would completely change his perception. As the commander moved down the line, trainees were called forward individually for evaluation. The SEAL, noticing her standing quietly among the group, smirked slightly and whispered to another trainee, "Let's see what she's made of." The comment was meant to be dismissive, but it set the stage for what was about to happen. When she was called forward, she approached with calm confidence, her movements precise, her head held high. Every detail of her uniform, every adjustment of her gear, and every step she took reflected the discipline and care she had cultivated over days of intense training. The commander stopped in front of her, his eyes narrowing as he studied her intently. He asked her rank, perhaps expecting a modest or nervous response. She replied confidently, stating her rank clearly and without hesitation. The response itself was simple, but her composure, tone, and presence conveyed much more than words could. It spoke of experience, determination, and the quiet strength that had been built over days of relentless effort. There was a moment of silence. The room, filled with trainees, seemed to pause. Even the SEAL who had made the joke found himself momentarily speechless. The commander, usually reserved and deliberate, appeared to hesitate for the briefest moment, a rare break in his usual formal demeanor. Then, in a gesture that stunned everyone present, he gave her a salute, the first salute of the inspection, before any others. The act was simple but profoundly symbolic. It was recognition of her skill, composure, and earned respect, and it instantly set her apart in the eyes of everyone present. The reaction from the other trainees was immediate. Some gasped softly, others stared in awe, and a few could not hide their astonishment. The SEAL who had joked about her rank blinked, visibly struggling to process what had just happened. The commander's action was not a mere formality. It was a statement. It said that she had proven herself beyond doubt, that her consistent effort, courage, and leadership had earned acknowledgement at the highest level. Her silent perseverance and exceptional performance had transformed initial mockery into respect, disbelief into admiration. After the salute, the commander moved on, continuing the inspection, but the impact of that single gesture lingered. Her squad, who had followed her lead through countless exercises, looked at her with renewed respect and admiration. Trainees who had once doubted her abilities now saw her as a model of skill, discipline, and resilience. Even those who had been skeptical or mocking recognized that her success was not a fluke. It was the result of talent, determination, and unwavering composure under pressure. She returned to her position quietly, without fanfare, her expression calm but her heart steady with pride. She understood the power of the moment. Recognition in such an environment was earned, not given lightly, and the commander's salute was a confirmation that her dedication had been seen and valued. It was not about ego or applause. It was about validation of the skills, discipline, and leadership she had demonstrated consistently. As the inspection concluded, the SEAL who had once mocked her quietly approached. His demeanor changed. There was no smirk, no sarcasm, only acknowledgement. He nodded, a subtle but sincere gesture of respect, recognizing that she had not only met the challenge but had exceeded expectations in every way. She returned the nod without words, understanding that mutual respect did not require speech. It was shown in recognition and acknowledgement. That evening, she reflected on the day's events. The commander's salute had been more than a gesture. It was a powerful symbol of achievement. It validated her journey from the trainee who had been underestimated and mocked to someone who had earned the highest respect through consistent effort, courage, and quiet leadership. She realized that true recognition came from action, from perseverance, and from maintaining composure in the face of doubt and challenge. As she prepared for rest, she understood that this moment would remain with her forever. The respect of the base commander, the acknowledgement of her peers, and the silent approval of the SEAL who had once doubted her had all confirmed what she already knew. That skill, determination, and integrity could overcome mockery, skepticism, and underestimation. She had turned a challenge into an opportunity, a joke into motivation, and had emerged recognized, respected, and admired. She closed her eyes that night with a sense of quiet pride and renewed determination, ready to face whatever trials awaited her next. She knew the journey was far from over, but this moment was proof that perseverance, focus, and courage could transform not just how others saw her, but how she saw herself. The days after the commander's salute were quiet but filled with subtle changes across the base. Trainees, instructors, and even the SEAL who had once joked about her rank now regarded her with respect, though nothing was said aloud. Recognition in this world was earned through action, and she had proven herself not just through words, but through consistent effort, skill, and leadership. She walked through the training grounds with quiet confidence, aware that her presence now carried a different weight. She had moved from being underestimated to being someone others could look to for guidance, example, and inspiration. Even though her achievements were now acknowledged, she remained humble. She knew that the respect she had earned was fragile. It had been built step by step, through patience, perseverance, and countless hours of training. She continued to approach each day with the same seriousness as before, focusing on improving her skills, helping her teammates, and maintaining the discipline that had brought her this far. For her, the recognition was not a reward, but a reminder that true success required ongoing effort and integrity. Her squad, once hesitant to follow her, now looked to her naturally for leadership. They sought her advice during drills, relied on her strategies during exercises, and trusted her judgment during difficult scenarios. She guided them without seeking attention or praise, demonstrating a leadership style that was quiet yet powerful. Her influence grew not because she demanded it, but because she earned it through skill, composure, and example. Trainees who had once doubted her abilities now quietly mirrored her discipline, understanding that her way of working was effective and admirable. Even the instructors began to notice the ripple effect of her presence. They observed how her calm, focused approach helped her squad perform at a higher level, how she maintained composure under pressure, and how she subtly encouraged and guided others without drawing attention to herself. Instructors occasionally gave her nods of approval, recognizing the rare qualities she exhibited, qualities that went beyond physical skill and tested true leadership, intelligence, and character. She knew that this acknowledgement, though understated, was more valuable than any verbal praise. The SEAL who had initially joked about her rank had changed entirely in his approach. He no longer questioned her ability or made sarcastic remarks. Instead, he offered subtle signs of respect, a nod, a quiet acknowledgement of her skill, or a moment of cooperation during exercises. He had learned, perhaps reluctantly, that underestimating someone based on appearance or assumptions was a mistake. She had proven that true ability was measured not by superficial judgments, but by performance, composure, and determination. She also realized that her journey had an impact beyond immediate recognition. New trainees arriving at the base began hearing stories of her achievements, of the calm and capable woman who had faced mockery, passed every challenge, and earned the base commander's salute. These stories served as quiet inspiration, showing that skill, perseverance, and integrity could overcome doubt and underestimation. She had become a living example of what was possible when someone refused to let negativity or skepticism define their journey. As time passed, she reflected on the lessons she had learned. She had discovered the power of patience, how enduring initial mockery and skepticism without reaction could allow true abilities to shine. She had understood the value of consistency, how performing well under pressure, day after day, built a reputation that could not be easily shaken. And she had learned the importance of quiet leadership, how guiding others, inspiring confidence, and taking responsibility without seeking attention could earn the deepest respect. These lessons would stay with her long after she left the base. Even in moments of personal fatigue or doubt, she remembered the challenges she had overcome, the jokes, the early mistakes, the intense physical and mental drills, and realized that each had shaped her into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable. She recognized that respect and recognition were not instantaneous. They were earned through sustained effort, patience, and resilience. And she took pride in knowing that she had earned them in the most meaningful way possible, through action, integrity, and unwavering focus. Her journey also left a lasting impact on the culture of the base. Trainees and instructors alike began to appreciate the importance of quiet strength, discipline, and competence over bravado or superficial displays. The story of how she faced mockery, excelled under pressure, and earned the base commander's salute became part of the base's history, a tale told to new arrivals as an example of courage, skill, and perseverance. She had become a standard for excellence, a symbol that determination, composure, and quiet leadership were recognized and respected, even in the toughest environments. As she prepared for the next day, she felt a sense of calm confidence. Her journey was far from over, Training would continue to be rigorous, and new challenges would always emerge. But she knew she had proven herself. She had earned respect not through words or appearances, but through consistent effort, skill, and integrity. She understood that true success was not just about completing tasks, but about inspiring others, maintaining composure under pressure, and remaining steadfast in the face of doubt or adversity. That night, as she lay in her bunk, she reflected on her journey from the trainee who had been mocked to the woman who had earned the commander's salute and the respect of everyone around her. She realized that her legacy was not about a single moment of recognition, but about the transformation she had undergone and the example she had set for others. The journey had tested her in every way imaginable, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and respected, not because anyone had declared it, but because she had earned it through action, courage, and determination. She closed her eyes with a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her experience would stay with her forever. She had proven that perseverance, skill, and quiet leadership could overcome doubt and mockery, that consistent effort and integrity earned the highest respect, and that true recognition was not given lightly, but when it came, it was lasting and meaningful. And with that thought, she drifted into sleep, ready to face the next chapter of her journey with confidence, courage, and unwavering focus.